Hey guys, flipping landlord Ninja here.
Hey, Kevin the Property Prince, and we are
Two guys take on real estate. So we're here to have a little debate, a little head-to-head action.
We have been planning this for the last 30, 40 seconds. It's fantastic. We're looking forward to it. Yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, been looking forward to it all minute. Which, I don't know which stance I'm taking. Doesn't really matter to me.
Nope.
Which stance are you? We'll figure it out as we talk.
We'll play it
none of
as
this is
by
rehearsed.
ear.
Yeah.
So, as you know, it's getting a little colder out, hence why I'm bundled up a little bit more, and we're entering heating season.
Oh, yeah, heating season, the landlord's least favorite time of year.
Definitely.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk today about, there's a couple of schools of thoughts on things. And if you're getting into real estate and if you're managing a few units and you're looking to expand, this is the big one for you.
I agree. So I think I'm going to take the stance of we should include it in your rent, you know?
What's that? You think we should include heat?
Yes.
In the apartment rentals?
In the apartment rentals. Let's include heat. Let's make some extra money.
What kind of crazy talk is that? I'm taking the opposite position on this because this guy is clinically insane. And you're going to include heat in an apartment rental.
Yes, I am.
Have you seen the people we've rented to and how much they take advantage as it is?
I have. And I think, we can make
You're gonna get
certain
destroyed.
systems.
Can we sell this computer and camera now to liquidate to have a few bucks for ourselves? Because we're going to go out of business. Who does that?
I don't know. I think I'm going to make us a ton of money. I think we're going to be rolling in it.
All right. So tell me how you think including heat as part of a rental is going to freaking make us money. This guy's nuts.
Well, okay. A lot of our heating systems, we're installing our newer heating systems, highly efficient.
Okay.
We've actually converted a lot to natural gas.
Natural gas, sure.
All right. So then we're
Converted from what? Oil? You're talking
oil,
about?
or electric.
Okay, so it's you're saying as opposed to other ways that we could be heating the place, we've lowered our costs as much as possible.
Exactly. Making it highly efficient.
Okay.
We're also making sure that the price for the fuel is much more stable. So as opposed to oil, which is constantly changing.
Right, market spikes all over the place.
Yep, exactly.
Same with electricity.
Especially right now with COVID and stuff like
Yeah.
that, we're seeing massive spikes with oil and higher demand. All
Electrical
that stuff.
suppliers have been getting hit with lawsuits because of their crazy supply
Correct.
charges and stuff like that. Okay, all right. I mean, I'll begrudgingly give you that. Okay.
So we do that. Now we're going to install. So most of our units are a single zoned unit.
Okay.
So there's one thermostat in that unit. And one boiler or furnace or whatever it might be.
Sure. So I mean, you're talking about even like a multi-family house where there's a heating system just for that apartment, and you still think that's a good idea to include heat.
I do.
Okay.
I think
All
there's
right.
a way around it.
This is for the regular guy. He doesn't have this landlord doesn't have to own a 20-unit building. This could be somebody that owns a duplex.
A duplex or 3 family, something simple like that.
All right.
And there's different things you can install. There's thermostats that are programmable and with lockouts. This way you can set the temperature up, control it completely. You control it with an app. I mean, there's so many smart technology right now.
Sure.
You can make sure it doesn't
What could go wrong? What could go wrong? All right. So I get you. So you're saying we install these high-end newer heating systems that are about as energy efficient as heating systems get.
Correct.
You convert from electric or oil to gas wherever and whenever possible.
Correct.
And that helps keep your your fuel costs down and stable.
Stable, yep.
Awesome. And then you use some kind of a smart thermostat, whether it's smart, limited, controllable, locked out, some kind of way to control the thermostat on the landlord's end of things.
And then now what you're looking at is the last couple years. Ideally, these are apartments that you've either rented or if you're buying it from someone, you get their records, or you can call the gas company and get the records from the gas company and figure what the average monthly, because obviously the heating season is going to be higher than the winter where you're not going to have to heat anything.
That's crap. How the hell is the gas company supposed to, or the heating company, gas company supposed to be able to know what the average monthly is? You're going to have one family that lived there and walked around half naked the whole time, cranked their heat to 80, versus another family who is much more responsible with their heating costs.
I think if you do a rolling average, you get it from the gas company, say 2 or 3 years, and average it out, and then now you're including that and bumping that up in the rent. Not only that, every year you can also, when you're getting a rent increase, that will be part of the rent increase.
Well, I mean, I think the rent increase itself anyway is going to be pretty much the same. If you're going to increase the rent $25, $50, it's not like you increase it specifically.
Well, some people only do 25, but maybe some people do 10%.
Sure.
So if you have, instead of $1,000 rent, you decide to do $1,100. Now it's $110 increase versus $100.
Sneaky. I like that. Can I flip sides? I like your side better. I should have been on that side. All right. So you're telling me you're going to jack the hell out of the rent. So there you go. I like that. So
I like that.
This is now you're in my territory.
Mr. Moneybag.
So you're charging more if they're living in an apartment with heat and probably hot water included?
Correct.
I gotcha. And that makes a lot of sense, I suppose, right? Because you're giving them more, you should, of course, be asking for more in return.
Yep.
So when people freak out about it and they see a listing and they see that it's, $1,500, I don't know, for a 3-bedroom apartment with your heat and your hot water included, they're not like, oh my God, that's sky high. They understand that it includes a lot.
It's included. Not only that, they're getting one bill. They don't have to worry about calling the electric company. Now, I don't want to say this, but some of our tenants
don't worry about their bills, that's for sure.
Well, don't worry about their bills, or maybe they've had some issues in the past where they can't put the power or the gas in their name. They maybe use, unfortunately, maybe their daughters or their son's social security number to put it in.
No.
Sometimes, maybe. Who knows?
Sure.
I'm making this stuff up as I go along.
Oh, yeah, making it up. Totally. Never heard of this before.
And so now they're getting one bill from us,
okay.
and they don't have to worry about that. They don't have to worry about it getting ever shut off.
Yeah.
Because, well, as long as they pay the rent to us. That's a separate matter.
We would never shut somebody's heat off if they weren't paying their rent. Of
course not. No.
Lock them out of the apartment without notice. Absolutely. No. I'm kidding. Don't do that, landlords. Don't do that. All in good fun. Okay, so I got you. So, wow, you're making a lot of key points. And this is a guy who didn't rehearse any of this. I'm pretty impressed, I gotta say.
Thank you.
So we must do that all the time then.
Of course.
All of our apartments.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Well, really? Because I don't seem to notice that in any of our leases. So, gosh, we don't
Any
do
of
that.
our leases?
No, all of our
Oh!
Sorry. So in some of our homes we do.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
And those have been just a wild success.
We're not supposed to be lying about this stuff. So all right. So I'm with you. Can I get a chance to rebut some of these things?
Go for it.
People out there.
Take it on there, Shippy.
So I love all the key points, obviously, and I love the fact that we're going to charge more for the apartment. And one thing I think before we move on to the other side of this that we should point out is if you're charging more for that apartment, say your base rate is $1,000 for that apartment, but you're charging $1,300 because you're including heat and hot water, $1,200, $1,300, whatever you want to say the bump is for that, right? You're not just charging that in January.
No, this is a year round.
So wait a minute. I get to charge $1,300 in June when they're not using the heat.
Exactly. So once again, you've got to figure an average that where you make money. Now, in the winter, though, you might actually find that you're getting a gas bill of $400.
Sure.
And you're really only getting a bump of $200.
Right.
But if you maybe have 3-4 months of heating where you see that elevated, but then you have quite a few down months where you're really seeing good.
Yeah. So we've just laid out, mostly him, we've just laid out an amazing scenario, an amazing business model of why landlords should absolutely consider including heat and hot water. Usually it's the gas bill with the rentals.
So we'll stop it right here. So please subscribe to our YouTube channel and we're done.
Well, we could make a part 2. No, screw that. Let's keep rolling. All right. So let's destroy why this is a good idea. You're going to have tenants that take advantage. You're going to have that in just any general situation when you rent to somebody. They're not going to treat the place like it's theirs because it's not.
Okay.
They're not going to take care of the place. They're not going to be, and here's where I'm getting, responsible about conserving and not overusing your gas.
Really? Why would they do that? It's
well,
their home.
I would love to tell you that everybody's amazing and treats the landlord and their property with the utmost respect all the time, but it's just not true. Yes, you're going to get some fantastic tenants out there that do take care of their places like their home.
Exactly.
But that's just not the norm, and in fact, the ones that are so far in the other direction cost you massively, so much more than the good people save you. This becomes a real problem for you. So let's talk about what including heat could end up looking like for you as a landlord. It's actually really funny. I stopped by one of our properties where we do have this service, where we do include heat and hot water in the home. And it's actually an apartment building, so it's a big central heating system. Each apartment is individually zoned, and each has its own individual thermostat, and I'll talk more on that in a sec. But, as we get into the heating system, this is what I do. One of the things that I do, that's not all I do, but I stop at the property and I look at the property and I look at all the exterior windows, and just one apartment had how many windows open? 4. 4 windows open. It was in the 40s. It was low 40s last night when I was there. I mean, on site, it's 40 degrees out. They have 4 windows open. And I'm not talking like ajar. I mean, one window open several inches, another window with an air conditioner unit still in it, which means, drafty. Our heat's blowing right
fair
up.
enough. Okay.
Another window still had a box fan in it. And, so we have nice windows there. You know the property. Triple pane windows, in fact.
Highly efficient.
We paid a lot of money.
Another reason why, including the heat.
Well, when you spend all that money on high-end equipment to lower your cost, it's all thwarted by the fact that the tenants then don't use the equipment. So not only does your plan have a little bit of upfront cost where we spent all this money on triple pane windows,
Fair enough.
they just effing don't lock them, and it's ajar, or they leave them open irresponsibly because they want some fresh air.
Okay, that sucks.
I mean, if you're at home, seriously, if you're watching this YouTube video and you're sitting in your living room and you pay your heating bill and it's cold where you live outside, tell me, are you literally just leaving your windows open all day long because you want fresh air? No responsible person is doing that. And the bottom line is they're not responsible people because they're not paying for it. Well, they feel that they are. So they feel that they should be able to do this.
Okay, because, they feel a little entitled, maybe is the word for it.
So going around and making sure, as best you can, that people are using your apartment responsibly and minimizing your expenses within reason. Nobody's asking them to be cold at night and freezing to death in their apartments. But I don't think it's too much to ask that they close their windows.
So you're saying that there's more of an administrative cost to kind of oversee that, make sure that's happening.
If you don't foot some kind of administrative cost, you're going to have massive gas bill costs. By far outweigh that.
Okay.
So I mean, think about this one apartment in this apartment property.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how much it's going to be costing? I'm sure the heat's at the 72 over there, and I'm sure the heat's running constantly, and it's going right out the window.
Right.
How many days, weeks, months would that go on if we don't see this and then try to put a stop to it? How long before we get a gas bill and really notice that it's that far out of whack and then take action?
True. I see the issue there.
All right, well, let's move on to the next thing, thermostat. So in these apartments, we'll say it's a multifamily house. A lot of folks out there have a couple of duplexes, a couple of multifamilies, and so how to handle those kind of situations might apply a little bit more to them. You're going to probably have a thermostat somewhere in the apartment or something along those lines, right?
Correct. Yep.
Maybe you get the fancy schmancy thing, right? That's all Wi-Fi connected, like what we're talking about.
The smart ones.
Maybe you put the glass, the
cover,
the glass cover over the
yep.
thing, right? Or maybe you do like we do in so many of our apartments. And I love, honestly, this. We have digital display, regular thermostats that you can adjust up and down. And you can only adjust them only into the 70s. So you can't irresponsibly crank the heat to 80 degrees.
Yep.
You can crank it to 72, which I think is fairly generous. I mean, again, I don't want to generalize. I guess I'm generalizing. Most working class folks, being responsible about heating costs in the wintertime, aren't cranking their heat at home to the 70s.
Right.
68 probably, maybe 70. 72, I think, is pretty good, especially in a rental situation.
I think we were actually on a podcast the other day where the gentleman was talking about how he has thermostats where it automatically, after a certain amount of time, at time of day, it would actually drop down to the lowest setting automatically. So you're, once again, saving, and then it would go back up come morning when it would rise up. So it's saving you more cost.
I think hotels do something like that, their kind of thing. But, awesome as those thermostats might be, they're basically taking an air temperature reading, sampling it, and then telling the thermostat, the heating system, if it should kick on or kick off or not.
Yeah, it's a simple binary switch. Yep.
So as advanced as these smart thermostats or enclosures could be, or limited thermostats can be, they're kind of dumb, right? Because how can we outsmart one of those things? Tenants, earmuffs, tenants.
Frozen hot dog.
Frozen hot dog on the thermostat. Just toss an old bag of frozen peas up on that thing, or a hot dog, and your thermostat starts thinking it's cooler in the apartment than it is. Sends a signal to the heating system, cranks it up, yada yada. Now,
so what you're telling me is we have a new business idea where we create this new thermostat that basically has some machine learning and a camera on it that can basically sense all that.
I was thinking, dude, let's just put a lease provision in there saying no hot dogs.
That seems cheaper.
I mean, it seems way easier.
Okay, fine.
So trick out the thermostat. The oldest trick in the book. Tenant things is very, very common. Any experienced landlord will tell you. Misusing the heating system by just leaving your windows open. My other fun one is, and it works both ways with no heat included or not, but code enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah, so here's where you get jammed up further. Maybe they're not paying their rent, maybe. When they don't pay their rent, right? And they get behind, you start chasing them a little bit for it, or anything else. They just get upset with their landlord and they want to retaliate against them. Incredibly common. You give them a talking to because you caught them smoking, or they've got 2 dogs that weren't supposed to be on the lease, or they have, all of a sudden a boyfriend that's living there or whatever that's not supposed to be living there. And you bring it up to their attention, say, hey, you need to work on this, we got to fix this. What do they do the next day?
Often if they call code enforcement and say, oh my God, I have no heat, no electricity, freezing, whatever it might be.
We're all getting sick. My kid's got the asthma, the whole deal.
Yes.
And, everything's working fine. Also why they shouldn't have access to the basement, because you don't want them tampering and disabling the stuff. But code enforcement comes out and, they let code enforcement in, or Board of Health, whatever it is in your area. They take an air temperature reading. Guess what? It's cold in there.
Because they had the windows open,
Oh, the windows open, right? Because they knew they were going to have a temperature reading. So they opened the doors for an hour before the code guy got there. They opened the windows before the code guy got there. And he comes in and it's 60 degrees.
Well,
now you're in violation.
Okay, you're in violation. But now, would that really be different if you include it or not include it? Because
No,
they can do the same thing if
they can do the same thing either way. Yeah, I just wanted
I'm
to
not
throw
sure
it out
how
there.
strong of an argument that is in your favor, though.
I just wanted to throw it out there because one of the differences is when heat's included in the rent, they're going to say that you're not sufficiently allowing it to be heated.
Okay.
Because one of the things code enforcement is going to do is test and see that the heating system is running. If
Correct.
it's really 60 degrees in there, the heating system is churning, firing away, trying to make it warm. So he's going to go touch the radiator, the vent, etc., see that the heat's blowing. And then with any logic, right, he's going to understand that there's not a mechanical issue here. Or she. They're going to understand that there's not a mechanical issue here. Everything's working as it should. For some inexplicable reason, it's just under temperature, so they hit you with an unsatisfactory or insufficient heat,
Correct.
which again puts you at a disadvantage at a landlord in terms of now collecting the rent that's truly due to you.
Well, now you got to pay someone to make sure everything's working. You got to kind of have everything checked.
Or at the very worst, you're going through all this administrative red tape of having the guy come back out, hopefully unannounced this time, knock on their door, or less announced, and get in there to see that, well, now that the place has been closed for an hour, it's warmed right back up to how it should be, and everything's working great.
Fair enough.
So again, a lot of headaches. It opens the door for people to play a lot of games. Tampering with the thermostat is incredibly easy. Even if that's not the case, I mean, they're opening the windows for fresh air. People in and out of the property constantly with the doors open constantly. It drives your costs up. And you could, chase the idea that you're going to get a bump in rent and make extra money over the course of the year on your heating bill being included, essentially. Right. But then find out your gas bills far outweighed the year-long bump in rent.
Right. Okay. So it's kind of more of a tenant, specific. Because some of these tenants, I'm guessing, would benefit, some you wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of going to be a case by case.
Yeah. We've had a lot of great tenants. Right. We've had a lot of great success with this. Bottom line is setting expectations early in terms of what you're supposed to be expecting for heat. We tell them, hey, listen, you have an adjustable thermostat. Display says right there what the temperature is. You have control over, unlike most places that have heat control or included, the landlord controls it. Here we give you control over it. You can crank it up into the 70s if you want to. I think it maxes out at like 72, and they always buy in. Oh, that's great. I lived in a place, it was always too hot, it was always too cold. Right. We didn't have any say in it. So you love the flexibility. You can execute this can work. But, you can also be faced with a whole lot of headache about it.
Fair enough. I guess one other counterpoint to being able to regulate it versus allowing them to do that is they will also, not everyone, but they might jack it up above sanitary code. And obviously every state is a little different, but now all of a sudden they're jacking it to 90, creating other problems.
Absolutely. Yep, that's an issue too. Everybody knows the state minimum heating requirements in their area, I hope. But what people don't seem to know is there is usually a maximum too.
Right.
And it makes a lot of sense. It's not that healthy to be living in a place, or comfortable, frankly, to be living in a place that's 90 degrees. So imagine if you were a tenant living in a property that the landlord had just a really imbalanced heating system, and the 4th-floor apartments were always super hot, and the 1st-floor apartments are always super cold. What a crappy way to live, to be honest. So that's why these things are in place.
Right.
So more regulation, lots of ability for exploitation, lots of ability to be wasteful. I mean, you're paying the water, right? The water bill. You probably don't want to see tenants out there washing their cars, running sprinklers in pools, brushing their teeth and leaving the water running, taking hour-long showers. My favorite, defrosting meats for an hour or two in the sink with hot water. I mean, same kind of thing, but with heat, right?
Fair enough,
Huge ability to waste. And then what's going to end up happening is any profit you're hoping to make on your year-long lease rental in terms of the bump for heat actually got diminished, but maybe eats into your profit or even, stability of your apartment.
Fair enough. So what did we? So I mean, all right. So we heard both sides.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of good sides on both sides, but what did we decide? What have we actually implemented? And
Well, for the most part, we moved away from it, and part of that is I think for a couple of things, but part of it is what I think a lot of other people won't have as an issue. If you're a smaller landlord, you have way better chances of being able to make this work successfully. Your chances are, you're a 1 or 2 man show, you're reviewing, woman show, whatever, you're reviewing your gas bills. You're seeing when a tenant overused, and then you're doing something about it quickly. It's not going to go 4 months.
Especially if it's an owner occupied. Now you're literally, you can say, hey, close your window. Hey, take that AC out.
Right. Every time I come home from work, I see your windows wide open. Listen, I'm including your heat. This isn't okay. And you can then take steps to deal with it. Right. There's the ability to file court motions if you have to. There's steps and things you can do. So you're a lot more in tune with it, and you can catch a small problem tenant before they become a big problem tenant.
Yeah, and I think what we found actually in the smaller buildings, often for the way we've structured our business, it doesn't make financial sense. We actually found that it wasn't as profitable. But where you have your larger buildings where there's a lot more units per building, it was financially viable, or the fact that it was just kind of how you had to do it because it already was one heating system, so you don't really have much of a choice unless you're spending a massive amount of money on a capital improvement. So it was more just simpler to just stay with the heating system you had. Maybe like the one we have is 16 unit and kind of individually zone things, so it limits the amount of trickery that can happen and
issues
theft.
And complaints. I love our situation with our building that has it included with 16 different units. They all have their independent thermostats.
Correct.
Troubleshooting is really easy. We get a complaint about no heat. We speak to the person on the phone before we send somebody out to deal with the issue. What's the first thing we tell them?
Can you please go over to your thermostat and let me know what the digital readout is? What's the current temperature in the room, and what is it set to?
Yeah, the first thing they tell you is 72.
Right.
The second thing to tell you, what's that?
It
doesn't feel like 72. I mean, then you're getting back into just dealing with the normal, just the normal tenant stuff that you have to deal with, and that's where you lean on your experience and hopefully our YouTube channel to help guide you through that.
Exactly.
Speaking of our YouTube channel, I hope you found this informative and helpful and maybe a little entertaining. And if you did,
please subscribe and hit that thumbs button.
Yeah, like it, thumbs up, alerts, and notifications. Tell your friends to maybe watch us so we don't feel like we're talking to ourselves. Yeah, and we really hope this helped. We hope you're profitable, we hope you're warm, and we hope your tenants are in great situations too.
Awesome.
Thanks again.
Thanks, guys.